our next live market session. What we're going to do today is the same thing we do every day. Really, it's not really quick. I always tend to go about 20 minutes, but fairly quick. Look at the markets. We're going to talk about what's happening in the futures market, what's happening over in the Forex market, and then what's happening in crypto, and we'll get some trade ideas out there. Again, as I've mentioned previously, I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not a fortune teller, foreseer of the future, guaranteed to have every prediction come true. I'm just a guy on the internet that's got some ideas about the way the markets could be moving, and I'm going to share those with you. And what you do with that information is totally up to you. You take action based on your trading plan and whatnot. Speaking of trading plans, by the way, there is information on the website over on MakeMoneyFromALaptop.com. Got some free training out there about the simple strategies that work, but they only work if you actually follow them. Like anything, we all know often what we should be doing, but what we actually do are two different things, right? But simple strategies can and do work, and they work because they're simple and repeatable. So anyway, let's get over to it. We're going to start with the futures market. We'll talk about what's happening first in the S&P, then over to crude, then gold, then I'll switch to foreign exchange, then crypto, and we'll get you out of here. So let's have a start right here on this screen, and we'll have a look. This is the 4-hour, starting in the top left. This is the 4-hour E-minis. So as we can see, we know we gapped open. So beginning Wednesday, really, Wednesday had a big move down, and that was kind of the catalyst started of the market move, largely driven by coronavirus. It's been in the news for a while. Market hadn't really been reacting to it. We said early on that we didn't think we'd really see a market reaction until numbers actually started coming out, and we started actually seeing what the impact of this really is, or is forecasted to be on business. And now, end of February now, almost the end of February coming into March, we're starting to see businesses sit up and take notice. We've already seen, I mentioned it pretty quickly, just friends here in the area, we're already seeing manufacturing slow down because they couldn't get materials that they needed, and that's starting to trickle through into the market. Travel industry is getting ravaged by this. But anyway, long and short of that, doesn't really matter, right? All we can really do is trade our charts. That's what we have to trade by. What's happening over here? With that gap down we've changed from an upward trend on the ES to a downward trend on the ES. So we're looking for, if we're going to trade with the trend, we'd be watching for opportunities where this pulls back to key areas, and then we can sell off of it. In off hours trading, the market rallied a little bit. It rallied a bit, pushed up above 3250, which is a big psychological key level. So we pushed above that, but then here, recently, really since London came online, it pulled it back down. We have repelled off of 3225 a couple of times. If we look at that yesterday, 3225, 3227 was a bottom for us. Then in off hours trading, we hit that and pushed back up. We've seen it again right here, and now again we're seeing it. This is during London, by the way. Hit it, repelled off, and now here we've come back to this 3244, and we seem to be pushing down again. But we've got an hour before regular trading hours begin. A lot can happen in that hour. So the name of the game really is just to be patient and wait and see what happens around these key levels. We've got a key level down here, 3227 is where my support line is. 3225, is a good area where just a whole number right there. So watching this range, 3225, 3227, seeing how price performs around that. And then the same on this top end over here, 3244, 3250. Waiting and see what happens around this. So what we'll do is we'll see where the market opens. But obviously, if it does rally as the new regular trading hours begin, we would be looking for key levels to potentially sell off of. So if we push up here to 3244, 3250, let's wait and see how price closes around that. So regular market session opens at 8:30 my time, 9:30 Eastern time. if it pushes through that, let's wait until 9 o'clock, see where that closes and how the market's actually moving before you take action. But ultimately, you know, with this downward trend, we would be watching, if we're going to trade with the trend, and again, I'm not telling you what to trade, I'm not telling you to push the button. That's got to be based on your trading plan, your trading rules, if you're a contrarian or trend trader or breakout trader or bounce trader, whatever it might be. But look to these key levels, you know, to trade off of. But for me, I feel like if we break above 3250, close above 3250, prior to or as the new market session begins, we could see a little rally today, and we'd want to wait until we find that top edge that we can then begin selling off of. Those are big ifs. We don't know the market's going to rally. We have no clue. We have no idea what's going to happen in the future. No one does. I can't reiterate that enough. No one, literally no one does. Which, by the way, total sidebar, with this big dump over the last 3 days now, expect in your inboxes to start seeing emails from all those people that have been screaming that the sky is falling since 2017. They're going to start popping back up, talking about the end is near and how you need to prepare for the worst and how the market's going to go to 10. I don't know, I'm just pulling a number out of my ass, but you know, you're going to start seeing those messages this week. Again, they don't know anything any more than anyone else. They've been wrong for 3 years. Now they're finally right. The market's reversed, so you're going to start seeing all those messages about those. Just it's coming. Just know it's coming. So anyway, I've spent way more time on this than I needed to. Here on the ES, long and short of that is, you know, we had a little burst of exuberance, and we've been trading above the previous close in off hours trading, but we are in a downward trend. So as the new U.S. session begins and we're under full regular trading hours, here in about an hour from now, we're going to wait and see what the market's doing. But ultimately, you know, if it does rally, we would be looking to sell, watching key areas for tops that we could then potentially sell off of. If you're not a, you know, bounce trader where you don't want to wait for it to pull back and sell into something, you know, just set your breakouts. You know, wait for it to break. You know, be patient. Wait for it to break below key areas, and then trade it that direction. If you'd rather trade breakouts, there's a whole section on breakouts that I've done in the members area. If you'd like to read up on that. Crude, same thing. Crude is in a downward trend now. It was just kind of hinting at turning to the downward trend yesterday when we came into the session here on the 4 hour. Crude is in a downward trend. Even here on the 30-minute, we're supporting that. So again, same thing. If we're trading with the trend, you know, wait and see if we get little rallies, and if we do, we would look to sell with that current trend. So, you know, we'd look for key areas, maybe the 5150, 5160 here to sell off of. If it does push as high as 52, that's been a number that's been on our radar for a while. We'd like to potentially sell off of it. We did have a gap down. It gapped from 53 on Friday down to, you know, 5260 on an open for off hours on Monday. So that could be something kind of interesting here as well. This is Sunday, really, you know, Monday in Asia. So I always worry a little bit about gaps because there is that tendency to try to pull back on those. But for right now, the trend is down. So we'd be looking, if we're going to trade with the trend, we'd look for selling opportunities off of key levels. So again, wait for the U.S. session to get fully underway under regular trading hours. If we do push up, you know, we've got 52.17 here, 5200 or 5200, 52 or 52.17 as potential selling points. If it pushes through that, we'd look to, you know, 52.60. But we'd want to wait for this, you know, we'd look for the top edge to be able to sell off of with that current trend. The 4 hour and 30-minute are both down. Over here on gold, upward trend on gold, same direction but flipped. We would look for pullbacks. We haven't seen these levels in like, what, 6 or 7 years. So I need to put some new, I'll have to draw it based on weeklies probably to look for new areas up here. We did pull back, and we had gapped, just like we gapped on these others. We gapped on gold, we gapped up. It came back and filled that gap and you know, now looking to you know, potentially continue north here on gold. So the trend is up, 4 hours up, 30 minutes up. Look for pullbacks. The 1625, you know, certainly a key area if it does pull back to that. I don't know if it'll get that far down. 1650, another psychological key area. See how price performs around that under regular trading hours when we've got more volume in, and you know, look for potential opportunities to buy the dip on gold. So we'll see what happens there. All right, switching gears over to the Forex markets. What's happening over here in foreign exchange? Really not much. Same story, different day. We had a lot of movement over the course of the London session. Saw a lot of movement in some of the pound, not all of, some of the pound cross pairs. Looking across my dashboard over here, which that one's big for some reason. I'll expand it again, but it's kind of the same story. A lot of these drives me crazy when it doesn't respond to what my chart is actually doing. Anyway, take a deep breath. What we're seeing with a lot of these ranges, same thing we'd seen previous days. Pound Aussie, for example, you know, it's moved 178 pips today on an average of anywhere from 157 to 160. So 150 to 160 pips. Euro pound moved 55 on an average of about 55. Just looking across here, looking at the current day's range coming into the new US trading session, we're seeing over and over and over again that in most of these currencies that we've traded up to or beyond what our typical range is. The only place I really saw some potential opportunity is well, there were two, and I actually put that in on the wrong one. I was looking here at the pound, at the U.S. yen, which they're trading right together on the charts over here. There's also the pound yen, which is this one right here. It's moved 70 pips on an average of about 108. So there is potential on this one. They are trading right with one another. The pound and the yen are pretty much flat. If we look at the currency strength meter, and we can see here, you know, over the last, how many hours this is? 8 hours, it's been pretty flat in a pretty tight range. So, you know, not a ton going on here. So breakouts are a great way to go. We don't know which way it's going to go. This is favoring a buy on the pound versus the yen. But if you just want to play both sides of it, you know, using the breakout box strategy, we could enter both and put a trade on both of those and wait for it to break out of one side or the other to see what's happening here. It's kind of the same thing I was doing on another pair over there. I just played a quick break because it had been kind of in a range for a little while as the US session began. Don't know which way it's going to go. Just put a breakout trade on there. If it breaks to the top of this, it'll cancel the sell order, and it'll allow me to take it long. If it reverses and goes to the bottom of this, it'll cancel the buy and have this on. So it's just a way to see where we're in a kind of a tight range here, and we'll see what happens around that. We don't know which direction it's going to go, but we do know that there's some opportunity still left on it based on the fact that we've moved 70 pips on an average of about 100. So is there 20 pips, which is what this is, between the entry and the take profit point? Is there 20 pips left in the tank? Based on the averages, it seems like there is. So we'll see. And if it doesn't do anything, then we'll close the trade out and be done with it and go from there. So that's Forex. There's not a lot really happening in Forex here right now. This has been the state of the last couple of days. This is where patience comes in, right? We have to be patient. When you've got the movement that's happened, you're kind of ranged out coming into the US session. Either be patient, or the flip side of that is to look for potential reversals and trade reversals. If you've already hit the top of what a typical range would be, look for reversals off of that to see if you can scalp a few pips from there moving forward. Obviously, there is the longer term trading. The other opportunity during the U.S. session, if you're not trying to trade intraday, is to look at longer time frames for longer term setups that you could be involved in. And that's something that we're looking at actually over with the Neurotech software, is we're looking at longer term. And I say longer term, an hour plus. That's longer term for me, considering I've always traded on 5-minute charts. So, looking at an hour plus is certainly much longer term in my book. So anyway, that's where we are with foreign exchange. Long and short of it is, using currency strength coming into the day, the currencies that we would see, such as the pound versus the New Zealand, right here on this screen, looking at the pound versus the New Zealand, pound versus the Aussie, pound versus the euro, great divergence on these, but they've already hit the tops of their range, which is why I'm not interested in those. Pound versus the yen, they're kind of trading in lockstep. Not really a trade here based on this, but just based on, a very simple breakout of what could potentially occur around current range versus average range. We could certainly, play this opportunity here. It actually had just touched in. It filled here on the top of this. It came to the top of this box and filled that trade. It closed the pending sell order, so now I've got on a long trade. And if this continues through even a pip or two, it's going to ratchet off the risk down here, and every pip that it moves in my favor, it's going to take risk off the table. So again, mathematically, that's why this breakout strategy works over the long term. Are you going to win every trade? Absolutely not. I never want to give anyone the impression that anything is going to win all the time. But mathematically, it gives you an advantage because you're always winning. If you're risking, let's say, 1%, you're always winning 1%. You're always losing less than a percent, on average, obviously, because your win is fixed and your stop loss ratchets off for every pip it moves in your favor. So mathematically, even with less than a 50% win rate, it gives you a mathematical probability of being positive over the long term. So we'll let that go and do its thing. It's already ratcheted off a couple of pips of risk there. Over into the crypto markets, Bitcoin continues to fall. We are again in that downward trend. As we mentioned yesterday, it's a downward trend. For those that don't want to short Bitcoin, you're like, man, there's so much coming up here in about a little over 2 months. We've got the halving event of Bitcoin that could be a big catalyst for continued movement long. Use these opportunities to accumulate. If you are day trading it though, if you are intraday trading on Bitcoin or on Ethereum, there's certainly opportunity there. Ethereum has been flat. While Bitcoin has been pulling back here, Ethereum has been fairly flat and hasn't seen the pullback that Bitcoin has seen. So, for Ethereum, we are still on an upward trend. So we'd be looking at bottom edges to potentially buy off of, or again, if you're not into buying in the face of a big red candle on a pullback, you just want to play breakouts, you can certainly tighten up things here and look for breakout opportunities. Here on the 4-hour on Ethereum, we've got a small channel right here at this 265 area. So 265 as a potential breakout long, and down here at 255, you can probably go a little bit higher, but just looking at the bottoms of these, where we've really seen this support down here, 255 as your bottom as a breakout short. So setting up 255, if it breaks through there, go short with it. If it breaks above 265, look to take it long. That's an opportunity or an idea for what you could trade. Otherwise, the flip side of it is just looking to set up these key areas. So there is additional support right here at 255, in looking for that. If you're looking to go long, which is the direction of the trend, look to buy as it comes down to 255 and see if it bounces off that and goes long. But of course, as I've mentioned before, it's tough to play those bounces. That's why a lot of people prefer breakouts, because it gives you that confirmation of direction. So being more patient, waiting for this to come up to the 265, playing a breakout off of that long might be psychologically a bit better, a bit easier for you to trade with. Same thing on Bitcoin. We are in a downward trend, so technically we would be looking to sell bounces on this or sell breaks of key areas because that would be trading with the trend. However, I know a lot of people are like, man, Bitcoin, I don't want to sell it, I just want to accumulate. So this is a great opportunity to accumulate down at these key levels. Like right now, 9,600. It's been a very well-respected level here at 9,600. If we close below this, though, again, we could see this, pushing even further down to this, 93, 9,400 down here. So pulling from 96 down to 94 certainly could be in the future. Who knows? No one knows, but it certainly could be. So, if you're looking to accumulate and be close below 96, you might look to buy more down here at 9,400. But for those that are intraday trading, we would certainly be looking to short because we are in a downward trend for the last few days now here on Bitcoin. So, if it setting it up same way, looking for potential breakout opportunities, you could look down here at 9,500. If it breaks below 9,500, you could sell. And if it breaks back above 96.75, we could look for potential buying opportunities. Just looking at breakout strategies there. So a lot of opportunity on that. We're right at 20 minutes. I'll go ahead and run through it. Crystal, this is the automated bot that I'm beta testing for a friend. Doing well. It has obviously pulled back as the Bitcoin market is pulling back. We're seeing Crystal, this token struggle a little bit, but that's okay. Again, as with every trading strategy, you're going to have losses as long as it's capping the losses, and that's what this is doing, is capping the losses. So it's taking losses as Bitcoin retraces, but it's capping those losses. So it's still performing very well. I'm still very pleased with what this is doing. We are close. My buddy said he'll have something out. Fingers crossed. He really just wants to test and test and test before he puts it out for the general public to make sure it's a quality product. But looks like in probably the next couple of months, he'll have this ready to go for the general public. Then for those in the U.S., we can't participate in stuff like this. There's regulations, limitations that prevent people from the U.S. being involved in this type of product. So he and I have talked actually about putting together an info style product where I'll just kind of take apart what he's done here and then teach it in a video course that will teach you how to set up a bot using some software that's on the market that will allow you to get similar results to this. It won't be trading with this specific bot, but it'll teach you how to do it yourself, which is pretty neat. So I'm trying to finish up this neurotech piece for another friend of mine down in Austin that I've been using the neurotech software for about a week and a half now, and this is the neural network software. And again, same thing. This is doing very, very well as well. Yesterday, for example, on the pound yen, that trade I showed you, it went 149 pips. So same thing. It's going to take losses. It does, but what it's doing is it's looking at the waves and trying to find a trend that it can become part of. So it's going to take loss, maybe small win, small loss, small win, and then it catches one of these, and that's where the bread is made, right? So same thing. We're working to get this out. Once this is out, and you guys can learn more about it, then I'll start on the training for how to set up the crypto bots and get more into actually trading that and talking to you more about how you can do that on your own and create your own bot. So that's it. Hit a lot of stuff today. So we talked about potential trade levels in futures. Again, you've got to have your own plan for any of this. I'm giving you ideas, but I talk about a lot of different ways to trade it. I talk a lot about buying the bounce or selling the bounce. So buying if it's a downward trend, buying the pullback or selling the pullback if it's in a downward trend. It pulls up, pulls back, sell it, right? If it's in an upward trend, I talk about buying that retracement. So there's different ways to approach it. Breakout strategies are really effective. Breakout strategies are, I think, one of the most effective ways, because you have to be patient. You have to set up limit orders so you can do it in advance. You can set limit orders in advance, leave, and let them do their thing. If you've got some software to manage it, especially, you can just let it do its thing and know that software is going to ratchet off your risk and move you to, and eventually, if it does hit a profit point, it'll take profit automatically for you. So there's different ways to approach the market. Just find one way, learn it and stick to it. And then once you're successful with it, if you want to look at other things, sure, start looking at other things that you can add to your repertoire and different ways that you can approach the market. But do one thing first. Do one thing, get good at it, be consistent with it, be successful with it, then move on. So anyway, we talked about levels here in the futures market. We talked about what's going on in the Forex market over here. And I actually put on a pound yen trade in front of you guys just to show that breakout process, not based on anything that's happening with currency strength at all. Because somebody asked me, and the reason that came up, by the way, is someone asked me about currency strength, and if they don't have a currency strength meter, how can you trade the markets? Just looking at repeatable patterns, right? Repeatable patterns. So we talked about a currency that's below its typical current range. We don't know which way it's going to go, but it does have a bias, obviously, based on things that are happening in the marketplace. And just trade. You trade using something that gives you a mathematical advantage. You don't have to have any fancy software. So we talked about the currency market, then we talked about crypto, and then we talked about a couple of automated things. So I'll be getting the neuro stuff out, the neurotech stuff out. Man, we have another meeting today right after I get done with this live stream to talk more about how to integrate our systems, because he's got a software that's been working for a while, and we're trying to integrate things so that you guys are able to start utilizing it, and we can talk about it on a larger scale too. So yeah, that's where it's going. So once we get all that done, we'll make sure you guys are aware of it. So that's it for me. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. As always, if you have any questions, need anything, need feedback, want me to talk to you about your trading plan or anything, just shoot me an email, shoot me a message on Facebook, or shoot me an email, whatever it is. I'm happy to talk. I'm here to help. So